At long last, the question has finally been answered. The question as to whether or not Arman Tsarukyan, the Armenian Batman rising star in the UFC's lightweight division, is still on Dana White's blacklist. He is. He will in fact not be getting the next title shot against Justin Gaethje and will instead be fighting rising star Mauricio Ruffy, who recently served as the backup fighter for the fight that really didn't end up being a fight between Conor McGregor and Max Holloway. Because he served as the backup, the UFC gave him the reward of being the man to step in between Arman and his title shot, his long-awaited title shot, ever since he pulled out the night before he was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I think most of the MMA world is shocked. I've seen mixed responses. Some people are overjoyed. They like the idea of this fight, a strong grappler and also striker and Arman fighting a really artistic, fun to watch Conor McGregor-esque striker in Mauricio Ruffy. And there are others that are very, very disappointed and upset with this matchup. Most of the opinions I've seen that are upset about this are mainly about Arman and him not getting what he deserves, which is a title shot. Arman has stayed active, incredibly fit. He's been participating in grappling match after grappling match every weekend. He fought against Dan Hooker not too long ago. He's had performances. He's shown that he is still a championship quality fighter, that he deserves a second chance at fighting for the title, and yet he is still denied. This is obviously his last test before getting a title shot. I think it was also publicly stated by some UFC affiliate that this is in fact a title eliminator match. And it's obvious that it is. Mauricio Ruffy is also on a really hot streak. He was recently manhandled by Benoit Saint-Denis, which wasn't a good look for him. But since then, he has bounced back in a big way. Most of which I attribute to him training with Alexander Volkanovski instead of the Fighting Nerds. I have become a fan of Mauricio Ruffy because of this. I felt like with the Fighting Nerds, he was limited, and it's because there's a big identity problem with that gym called the Fighting Nerds that includes rising star Carlos Prates, rising star Kai Barallo, and rising star Gene Silva. 3 separate UFC rising stars in 3 separate weight divisions that all share the same thing of just, lack of humility. Lack of humility. When the Fighting Nerds started breaking out with the nerdy glasses after every UFC win, they already acted like they were champions, like they had at least one UFC title between them, which they don't. None of them are UFC champions yet, and yet they still are so boisterous, about how successful they are. And I was overjoyed at seeing each of them take a loss, except for Kai Barallo. I don't think Kai Barallo has lost yet, and he's the leader of the whole gang, or I think he is. But overall, I was very happy to see Mauricio Ruffy leave the Fighting Nerds and train with one of the greatest UFC fighters to ever do it, in Alexander the Great Volkanovski. So that was a really, really great look for Ruffy, and it's a move that made me a fan of him. I think he's got a really strong head on his shoulders. He actually is looking to improve, to become more well-rounded, and to become a UFC all-timer one day. And I think he truly will, with the proper tutelage from Volk. If Volk can get his ground game to a world-class level, or at least his defensive grappling to a world-class level, Ruffy could be unstoppable. His striking is beautiful. His timing is really great. And, that's why it's being called Conor McGregor-esque, because Ruffy has a flow state to him. And, his head movement and his punching placement allows him to generate these huge knockout moments in his fights. And it's a really, really beautiful weapon to have. Like I said, the only issue has been his grappling, and that was put on display against Benoit. And we'll see if he is ready. This title eliminator match is a beautiful display of a test for both fighters here. It is a final test for Arman to see if he's truly mature enough to fight for the belt. I think Arman has already proven that he's championship quality, but now this is a test of maturity. And for Ruffy, this is a test of championship quality. This is a test to see whether or not he is ready for a title fight. And to be ready for one, he's got to prove that he is a well-rounded fighter. Arman has proved that. Arman has world-class striking, and he has wrestling that is the highest level of the highest level, as well as submission grappling. Ruffy has proven he has great striking, is very Conor-esque, like I've said, but he needs to prove that, you know, he cannot just be easily taken down and manhandled by any high-level grappler in the UFC. And Arman's going to test him, man. Arman's going to test him. I think this fight will be fireworks. This will be an edgier seat, aggressive fight. I think Ruffy will be looking for a statement here, and Arman will just be looking for the win because he knows all he needs is one more win to finally fight for the title. And I think Arman will look for that win any way he can get it. You know, if he believes Ruffy is still not high level enough on the ground, he'll chase for the takedowns. He'll chase for ground control time. He'll chase for submissions. You know, it's up to Ruffy to keep Arman at bay. Now Ruffy has the reach control advantage, which is a very beautiful advantage for him to have, given how beautiful of a striker he is. So he could put together, you know, an excellent array of kicks and punches to keep Arman at bay, and then continue to just batter Arman throughout the entire fight. But again, Arman is a very strong and effective grappler. You know, he can find ways to bring guys to the ground. And if he's able to, it'll be nightmarish for them on the ground going forward. Arman will find ways to get submissions. He'll find ways to drag them back to the ground if they're able to get up. But again, the good news for Ruffy is he has a UFC all-time legend in his corner. He has Alexander the Great Volkanovski to walk him through the Legend's Guide to Grappling. Volk can help him find holes in Arman's grappling, which I believe there are none. So at the very least, he'll help Ruffy prepare for a really, really tight, fast-paced grappling game where Ruffy perhaps could find a way back up to the feet. You know, maybe even reverse positions. It's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a fun fight. If you'd ask me who I think wins, that's the toughest part for me. I'm a fan of both fighters here. I like Arman. I've grown to like him. And I like Ruffy. I've grown to like Ruffy now ever since his move from Fighting Nerds. But, you know, deciding a winner isn't really based off of who I like. Like I said, Arman still has the grappling threat given, you know, Ruffy's recent fights and how he's performed on the ground. So if Arman's able to get a hold of Ruffy, it could be over from there. If the fight stays on the feet, I think, you know, the striking and the reach advantage favors Ruffy, although Arman, I would consider, still has world-class striking. But it's just the movement of Ruffy that can really kind of outwork Arman or outscore Arman, you know, near those later rounds. I'm going to go Ruffy. I'm going to be more exciting about this and not assume that Ruffy will be easily manhandled on the ground. I'm going to say Ruffy actually, you know, takes a lot of advice from Volk, and he ups his game on the ground. And maybe Arman will bank in a couple takedowns, but I think Ruffy will find his way back up to the feet. He'll force Arman to strike throughout, you know, most of the fight, and throughout most of the fight, he will outstrike Arman. He has the reach advantage. He'll utilize it to an extreme advantage. He'll strike before Arman can. Arman, like I said, will have moments. Maybe he'll bank in a couple takedowns, maybe land, you know, a counter or two. But I think the entirety of this fight, or the majority of the fight, will be Mauricio Ruffy just outstriking Arman. Outstriking him, kicking him where it hurts, tagging Arman, knocking the head of Arman back, and just outstriking him to a safe decision win. I don't think he'll knock out Arman. Arman is a very tough, durable guy. But I think he will bloody up Arman. You know, he'll cause some bruising on the face of Arman Tsarukyan by the end of the fight. And Armin, again, will be able to get a hold of Ruffy at least a couple times, but not to the point where it'll matter on the judges' scorecards. What will matter is just the significant strike percentage differential in favor of Mauricio Ruffy. So yeah, give me Mauricio Ruffy via a significant a significantly safe decision win against Arman Tsarukyan. I don't think this will be the end of Armin. I think Armin is very skillful enough to hang around the upper echelon of the lightweight division for the foreseeable future. He may even finally get a title shot in the next couple of years. But I think Ruffy will come out in a surprising win. I think the odds will be with Armin. I think Armin will be the favorite. I think by the time the fight rolls around, a lot of people will be saying Armin's going to win this. Armin's going to get a hold of Ruffy and submit him. But I'm going to stick with Ruffy. I'll stick with the underdog choice. And I think Ruffy will get the win and then fight Justin Gaethje for the title some point in 2027, which he may get. Ruffy may be the lightweight champion, mid 2027, which would be wild. It would be wild, and I would be PO'd if I was a fighting nerd by then, because you had him, you had Ruffy there. You could have finally had a title between you guys, but Ruffy saw the weaknesses in the club and he left and he trained with Volk. And it'll also show how great of a coach Alexander the Goat Volkanovski truly is. So yeah, once again, great fight, surprising. I think it is a little bit of a spit in the face of Armin from the UFC, because I think Armin already pretty much has deserved a title shot for a long time now, and to have him fight through one more test is a bit of an insult. But Armin will have to do so anyway. It's a good fight. It's a fun fight. It's fireworks on the feet. Both fighters are hungry for that title shot, and they have something to prove, and this is their final test to do so. And I think Ruffy will come out in emphatic fashion to win this fight. Not by knockout, but it'll still be, a strong win. A win that shows how great of a striker and how great of an overall fighter he is, because he'll show that he can defensively grapple well as well from what he's learned from a UFC legend in Alexander Volkanovski. Overall, let me know what you think.